My name is Chris Beitler, and I'm joined by Tim Clare and Carl Eskridge today. We comprise the board of the West Haymarket Joint Public Agency. Notice of the open meetings law is posted in the back of the room. We operate under those rules. Public comment is encouraged. We do have a standard time limit that can be extended, but the total is 5 minutes unless otherwise extended. And we simply ask that each person testifying identifies himself for the official record. Agenda item number 3 is approval of the minutes from the JPA meeting held on May 24th, 2018. It's been moved to approve the amendments,
Second.
I assume, and seconded.
The minutes.
What did I say?
Amendments.
The minutes, excuse me. Is there discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, call the roll on the approval of the minutes.
Yes.
Beitler,
Yes,
Eskridge.
Yes.
they are approved. Agenda item number 4 is approval of the May and June 2018 payment registers and review of the May and June 2018 expenditure reports, which will take the presentation together today. I think this is the first time we've done it quite this way, but we'll see how you like it.
All right,
Brandon.
so good afternoon. Brandon Kaufman, treasurer for the West Haymarket JPA. You have before you a couple items. You have the May 2018 payment registers and expenditure report, and also the June. For the May, you have a total of $466,770 in operating expenditures, and capital expenditures is $6,240. Just a couple highlights for the May operating expenditures. There's 2 months worth of parking payments that were included in there, so that total is about $263,267. That's for management of the parking for the decks. And then you have $200,089 to the DEC, of which about 62% is billed back to the private sector for the cost of heating and cooling.
You'd say all but or
62% of that 200,000 amount. So
billed back to the
yeah, so about 124,000 is billed back to the private sector.
bar cost is about 80.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Within the capital budget, there is just a couple small items in there. Mostly, there's one for canopy design. The rest is for environmental monitoring. The expenditure reports are also included for May, and those have all the payments that are in the current payment register. In addition, we had 2 more financial reports that we put into the packet that are available for the board and public. One is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and fund balances as of May 31st, and that's for the West Haymarket Joint Public Agency. You can see by looking at that report, you can see total revenues about $21.6 million, total expenditures of $21.9 million for a deficiency of $397,000 for the current year, or as of May 31st, and an ending balance of $33,808,000. In addition, there's another financial statement that's included as of May 31st. There's an income statement for the Pinnacle Bank Arena. You can see they had adjusted gross income of $3.9 million, expenditures of approximately $3.9 million for a current deficiency as of May 31st of $65,000. They had retained earnings, which is basically fund balance for them, still of $313,000 as of May. I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions there on the May payments.
Any questions?
I didn't hear your explanation, because I see three. I look at May and June, I look at, there's three, looks like parking, sets of parking payments.
Yeah, on that May payment register.
Yeah.
You've got kind of two sets of three.
Right.
So one is for the March payment and one is for the April payment. So they're a little bit in the arrears on payments there.
And then so the one then taken in June is for the May payments?
Let me look. Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
And if there's no questions on the May payment, I can go through the June one as
Okay.
well. Okay, so June had total expenditures for operating expenditures of $9,306,135.43. The capital expenditures of $15,165.75. I'll go through and highlight some of the major payments. The first is the UNL PBA settlement payment. So the payment's $322,000, and then there's the net per the contract. That net is $320,456 for a payment of $1,544 net to the university. You have our bond interest payments. Those total $8,101,768. There's arena maintenance and repair payments of total $38,755. That's for routine maintenance contracts, annual contracts for elevator, IT maintenance, food and beverage equipment. There's also the third quarter staff reimbursement back to the city. That's for $115,553.37. You have the IMG fourth quarter sponsorship payment to the PBA of $270,608. The operating increment fourth quarter payment of $150,000 to the PBA. Parking management fees for May of $162,565, and then $199,534.75 to the DEC. Within the capital budget, there's payments there. There's some pigeon proofing design payments, payments for PC sports contracts, and then environmental monitoring. So all of those are included within the expenditure reports. In addition, we have the West Haymarket Statement of Revenues, Expenditures, and Fund Balances of June 30th for total revenues of $23.6 million compared to total expenditures of $23.1 million for a surplus of approximately $400,000 as of June 30th for the fiscal year, with an ending balance of $34.6 million. As of June 30th, occupation taxes were up 1.75%. However, they're still ahead of original projections by 25%, which corresponds with the year 2029. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions of Brandon?
I assume on the payment to DEC, it's the same 62%?
Yeah, approximately, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other question goes back to the accounting, City of Lincoln Accounting Department, city staff payment of $115,000.
Mhm.
We had talked, I think 9 months or a year ago, about measuring not only the time that's put in for this, but also time put in for legal, for example, and others, and keeping track, because again, we think I would suggest anyway, that it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we're paying for the services that are being provided to us. But then secondly, I think the city doesn't want to have be using a lot of their legal time and accounting time and that type of thing on and not getting paid fair.
Yeah.
Have you been tracking that? And if so, is this an accurate figure, or is this an average estimated figure?
So this is a figure based off of the prior year's budget. And I think as part of that discussion, we talked about looking at that as moving forward. So the city's been in the current process of going through its biennial budget. As part of that, we also looked at the various costs for staffing time. So within the budget proposal, I think that should be coming out next month. I think there will be some recommended changes based off of those earlier discussions.
And as long as it doesn't result in the JPA having to pay more. Maybe you shouldn't ask a question you don't know the answer to, but I do think it's important for us to make sure that we're being accurate on both sides.
Okay.
Any other questions of Brandon? Thank you, Brandon. Why don't you hang on a second? Is there any public comment?
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs of Lincoln Government. This is kind of a general question. I don't know if you'll kick it out, but since the Haymarket is supporting the Pinnacle Bank Arena, does that go on until the bond is paid off? Or is there a date in which that will change? Or has that been decided?
That's a pretty difficult question to answer, I guess, for considering the amount of time till those bonds are paid off.
Uh-huh.
You know, I'm not sure if I could answer that for you today.
Okay. That's never been considered or posed to you?
Well, I think like we've discussed before is that there's revenue that comes into the West Haymarket JPA that's generated by the arena. So whether you put that money within the JPA or you put that money within the arena is collecting that, I think is a matter of consideration. But there's more money coming over the JPA than that's being generated by the arena.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I realize that.
Yeah.
I guess my issue is we know that the JPA is supporting the arena. It is not self-supporting, right?
Well, if we let's say we took the parking revenues or the suite revenues from the loge boxes, and we put that money over in the arena funds, then we wouldn't have to do this operating increment transfer on a quarterly basis. So it's just a matter of which pot the money is going to.
So is there a plan to end that?
That's something we could discuss within the upcoming budget.
Of the city, but the city budget?
This
Or
board.
this, you're talking
Yeah.
about the JPA budget?
JPA budget. Mhm.
Oh, okay.
But the JPA is going to stay in existence until the bonds are paid off.
Yes, that is
has-
correct.
That has to continue until the
Yes.
bonds are paid off. So the financing operation is going to have to remain in place until those bonds are paid in full.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we'll
Okay.
continue.
And that's how many years down the line?
30,
2045, I think.
I don't think I'm going to be here then.
I might be.
Okay, I just wondered if there was any idea about that. I'll bring it up again in the next.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Is there any further public comment? If not, I understand no action is required on the expenditure report side, but we do need a motion for approval of the payment
So
registers for May and June of 2018, I believe. It's been moved, seconded?
Second?
Moved and seconded, further discussion? Call the roll.
Claire,
yes.
Beitler,
Yes,
Eskridge.
Yes.
they are approved. Agenda item number 5, WH Resolution 18-9 to approve a final oversight fee payment to DEQ related to voluntary cleanup programs accomplished on the properties. Frank?
Frank Ularek, Sustainability and Compliance. Little background on this particular agreement or payment. This is for just the south areas, Alter Scrap and the former Watson Brixton Yard. Back when we originally negotiated these MOUs with DEQ, they're still in the process of making it a statutory requirement that these long-term oversight fees would apply to such actions to get your no further action document. So thus, it was never done on the north because that was the first initiative, the assessment and cleanup, so we weren't obligated to have that long-term agreement. Once we entered into the MOU for the south, however, it kicked in and that applied to the south properties. And what the long-term payment pays for, essentially, we've done the assessment, the cleanup, soil removal, caps, and institutional controls in place. I have to go out on an annual basis and verify those are in place, report to the DEQ that we're still in compliance with the covenants, restrictive covenants, and that there hasn't been any violation of such, or that we've responded to any concerns at the site. That's reported to DEQ. They also are obligated to do an annual inspection and approve our report. So, and in perpetuity, how do you put a dollar figure on that? They initially proposed a $10,000 fee, and we countered, since we spent $7.5 or thereabouts $1 million in cleanup, that we paid them sufficient amount of oversight fees through the years, and that a $5,000 counteroffer was accepted for their long-term oversight in perpetuity. So that's it in a nutshell. It's a precondition for us getting a no further action document for future developers to reference for the Alter South and North and J-Land properties moving forward.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Other questions of Frank?
Yeah, just so I understand, you indicated that that $5,000 commitment is in perpetuity?
Right, that's a one-time fee
Okay.
that pays for DEQ oversight costs for 10,
All right.
15, 20, 30 years.
Okay,
Now, we can get out of that, or the developer can get out of that if they, acquire the property, clean it up to the point where it's pristine and there is no need for a cover or a further institutional controls, and then eliminate that long-term obligation. But, it's been paid for upfront for the oversight fees. But what I'm saying is, if that occurs and the use for any of these properties changes, we will no longer be obliged to do these inspections.
any guesses or assurances, I guess, in terms of when we might receive the letter from the state?
I would suspect as soon as they get the check, we'll see it in a week or two.
Okay.
Do you have a question, Ted?
Just along those same lines, the no further action letter is what's necessary to basically bring to a completion the cleanup efforts that we've undertaken over the past several years to get the property cleaned up.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Under the voluntary cleanup program with
Right.
DEQ. Now, the petroleum program, we still have a couple little spots there near canopy lofts, which we're continuing to whittle away at, and that was the last extension of Kennedy Jenks' contract, and that's a separate program and effort that doesn't require the similar controls and agreements.
And where did this finish up relative to the amount that we had budgeted for this cleanup effort?
We estimated, back in 2010, that this would be about a $7.5 to $8 million cleanup. And I think at last I think Adam was sharing with Nancy for an upcoming article that we're about 7.2 or 7.3 million, so.
Okay.
Yes.
No further comments for Frank? All right. Frank, thank you. Is there public comment on this item?
So does this mean that Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs of Lincoln Government, does this mean that DEQ is coming out and looking over this, or they're taking your report?
They will, of course, receive the annual inspection report from me, and they are also obliged to come out and do physical inspections, verify as well, so, under the voluntary cleanup program.
Both of them? Both of the, what you send in and what they look at
Right,
also?
Right.
Okay.
I don't know that they produce a formal report, but they're obliged to do an annual review themselves.
Okay. Do they advise you that they're coming out, or is that spot check?
They could sneak up on us if they wanted to.
Okay. So this does not include the pumping part?
No.
Okay.
That's
This
the-
is just ultra scrap and J-Lin?
Right.
Okay.
Everything south of O.
Okay. And the pumping part is still going on, and
And we expect
they're still
to-
monitoring that?
I'm optimistic we'll wrap that up in the next quarter.
Okay. And so they've pronounced, well, they couldn't if they're going to continue to monitor that. What would they look for in the spot checks?
That's basically if there's been any unauthorized digging, any utility installation, a new building coming into a footprint that hadn't been further investigated or cleared with DEQ and the city.
Okay. Construction issues.
Right.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, there's things like we have to inspect for erosion of the cap, like up on the north end. Although it's not subject to the oversight costs, we're still obliged to do inspections on everything north of O as well. So we'll say on the pedestrian bridge, the embankment there, we have to look for erosion and make sure that it's being properly maintained and capped.
Okay. And people in your office do that?
That's me.
Okay.
We have had consulting
You
support.
put your
with it.
boots on and go
I
out there?
do, and my hard hat. I'll have you know, I comply with all safety rules.
Okay. You know what you're looking for.
No idea.
I have an inspection sheet.
You
Thank
do.
goodness.
Given to you by the state or the
We
mayor?
We developed that, and that was approved by the state.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Is there further public comment? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve WH 18-9?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Further comment? If not, call the roll, please.
Claire,
Yes.
Beitler,
Yes,
Eskridge.
Yes.
the resolution is approved. Agenda item number 6 is Resolution 1810 relating to BKD and the performance of the audit for the year ended August 31st of 2018. Brandon.
Hi, and so this is a request for approval of the engagement letter by the board for BKD as the annual auditor. This is the 4th year of the contract. This was contract that was approved by the city council that also included the West Haymarket JPA when it was bid out. After this, there's an option to extend that contract another 4 years. The engagement cost is $18,575. The Government Finance Officers Association puts out best practices. They recommend that entities stick with an auditors for a minimum of at least 5 years as a best practice. Management is responsible basically for putting all of the financial information together. Then as part of this audit engagement, they express an opinion on those financial statements, issue a report based on that, and then also issue a report based on internal controls that they check to make sure there's no fraudulent activity occurring. The engagement letter process also, there's there's standards that are set by the Government Accountability Office that BKD has to comply with to be able to say that they are an independent auditor. So even though we are paying them for these services to audit the West Haymarket JPA, there's independency requirements that they have to abide by. And with that, I'll stand for any
What
questions.
do you mean independency requirements?
So, there's different compliance and checks. So if BKD comes in and they're auditing the financial statements, if they draft those financial statements, they're not actually putting together the financial information. Staff is putting all the financial information together. Then they're just compiling it. And then in addition to that, they've got assurances and compliance checks outside of that where, the people who are working with the annual audit, they hand that information off to somebody within that firm who's completely separate of that division. And then they check the work basically of the auditors to ensure that they've complied with all the guidances and everything.
I assume part of that's driven by the bonds as well.
Well, I think part of that, is just driven by these standards that are set by the Governmental Accountability Office that say, if you want to be independent, you have to meet these criteria. Yeah.
Additional questions of Brandon?
Have you
Thank
been
you.
pleased with their work?
Yes. Yeah. I think BKD is a top audit firm. So.
What year is this for them, did you say?
This is the 4th year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Brandon. Is there public comment on this item?
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. So they're not here to present the report? Or,
This is not the actual presentation of the report. This is just
Okay.
the engagement letter to
Okay.
basically say they are going to audit the current year financial statements once we end the year.
okay. So, if they're auditing the city and they're also doing the JPA, what are the safeguards that there isn't like an inside, that it's not really outside audit? Just their honor system, or?
Well, I think, for one thing, it's the role of staff to present all of the financial information. So they're not actually changing the numbers or anything like that. If they find material errors, they make recommendations for corrections to those errors in the financial statements.
Okay. So it's not really an outside audit then?
It is an outside independent auditor that we're contracting with
Yeah.
to review our financial statements.
But it's not like an outside audit. You're paying them.
We are paying them, but they have to maintain independent status to be qualified as an independent auditor. Even though we're paying them, there's no conflict there. If they found some material error within the financial statements, they would have an obligation to report that within their report and their management letter that they give to this board once those statements have been audited.
Is that standard for
Mhm.
government?
Yep.
That you can hire your own agency and your staff presents the material?
Well, it's not a service that's typically done for free.
Yeah, I know they wouldn't do it for free.
Yeah. And if they don't pay, if we don't pay them to audit us, I'm not sure who would pay them to audit us.
So government government always pays for its audits?
Yeah, mostly it's required by state statute to have an independent audit. Since there's nobody who would do that service for free, we go through a request for a proposal process to find one of the best qualified firms who can come in and give an independent opinion to an elected board as to the presentation of those financial statements.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that done in other states the same way?
Yep.
It is?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, James. Is there additional public comment on agenda item number 6? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve 1810, approving the letter agreement?
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Call the roll.
Claire,
Yes.
Beitler,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
1810 is approved. Agenda item number 7 is Resolution 1811, authorizing the purchasing agent to go through the process of purchasing some new terminals for Pinnacle Bank Arena.
Good afternoon, Tom Lorenz, General Manager with Pinnacle Bank Arena and SMG. We'll come forward today for 2 approvals for expenditures. The first is to purchase 30 additional and new point-of-sale terminals. We work with a company, NCR, who makes a point-of-sale terminal that is called Quest. It is a specific terminal to a system that ties back into our software, which allows us to do inventory control, which allows us to process credit cards through at points of sale. These additional terminals allow us to do additional point of sale, what we would call portable sales, throughout the concourses, throughout the lobbies, and in different areas. Since ancillary revenue is an important part of what we do, expanding the ability to do that with a point of sale terminal is an important part of keeping revenue flowing in a good orderly manner. These terminals, we went through the process with purchasing to sole source these, since we already have an extensive set of NCR Quest terminals in place. These are not just credit card processors. Again, these are software tied back into our other system. Purchasing approved the sole source, and the bid is appropriate, $32,940. We anticipated $35,000, and then an additional $900 some for shipping.
Questions of Tom?
And these were to replace some, but also get new.
Correct.
New.
Some
point of sale
replacement.
sites or whatever.
Right, so
they're
it expands
referred
our capacity and allows us to do that. And then we also use these as we do things out at Pinewood Bowl or outside or wherever, yeah.
No further questions? Okay, thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Is there public input on this particular item? Why don't you hang on here, Tom?
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. So why do they need replacing after, 3 years, 4 years, something like that?
We're in our 5th year, so, yeah, we'll be 5 years here very soon, and they're used at every event. Food and beverage sales are something that happens at every event, and so there's certainly some wear and tear on them. The majority of these are expanding what we do.
More
Part of what is also-
expansion than replace?
Right, and part of the printer, or part of the point of sale also has a printer with it, and as you know, some of the small, I think what they call a magnetic strip printer, you know, those things have a certain life. We're able to do some maintenance on them. We've had some repairs. The majority of this allows us with expansion, and it does some repair or some replacement of pieces that we've used in other locations. Particularly when you're doing portable, you're going to have some wear and tear on these.
So is 5 years the life? Will there be 5-year repurchases?
The vast majority of what we have, we still have in place, so it's beyond. And again, the majority of what we're doing here is expansion. So to say that 5 years is the life, even if it was, we've gone beyond that, or will go beyond that.
Okay. And expansion for
For points of sale.
revenue collection, is that it?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so it was, you have more people coming in?
More
or-
points of sale. There's 80 permanent points of sale that are within the arena. And those that, when you go through the arena, if you would go to the Haymarket concession stand, there are a set point of sales, or number of points of sale in that concession stand. And the same thing when you walk the concourse, there are set concession stands, but also when you're at a concert, a family event, a basketball game, you'll see additional sales outside, whether it's beverages, ice cream, popcorn, those type of things that are sold in addition to what's sold in the concession stand. Those would be portables. So the more points of sale you have, the more chance you have to capture revenue. And so this relatively modest investment in additional points of sale allows us to capture very accurately the sales that would happen outside of the set concession stands.
So this would be like people walking around with beverages to sale just on the floors and that kind of thing?
No,
Or-
that would be, what you're talking about is hawking.
Okay.
And we don't do that, or
You
do very
don't?
little of it.
Okay.
Because it really starts to engage and disrupt an event.
Okay.
These would be on the concourse.
Okay,
And an important part of these is to be able to take credit cards and debit cards. If you just had a stand sitting out there with a cash tray, you can capture the sale, but it's not as accurate. If you have credit cards or debit cards, people are more likely to make that purchase.
okay. So this would be just walking on the floors?
These would be in the concourses, so you have all of our concession stands are what we call interloaded. So if you walk on the concourse, the windows would be to your right, and the concession stands are on your left. We also put some portable stands to the right, which would be opposite the concession stands.
Concession stands, okay.
And those are portables out there. Mhm.
Okay, so those are portable stands. And those are your items?
Yes, we control all the food and
Okay.
beverage sales.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Sure.
Is there further public comment? Seeing none, is there a motion on agenda item number 7, resolution 1811? A motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there further comment? Discussion? Call the roll.
Claire,
Yes.
Beitler,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Resolution 1811 is approved. Agenda item number 8 is resolution 1812. Again, relating to a contract order matter. Tom?
Also, as part of a CIP purchase, we have gone through purchasing, and through the process, we would like to purchase an additional 66 Motorola radios. I've got an example of what we're purchasing. This is the general radio we use for staff and for communication, not only for safety and for security, but also to call from a concession stand back to the warehouse to order materials, those type of things. We had an initial purchase, and our needs were actually beyond what we had with the original purchase when we opened the building with the FF&E. These 66 radios augment the radios we have. The 66, the radios were specifically bid to match the ones we have now, so they work within that system. We've also added one, what we call a repeater. A repeater takes all the signals and then sends it back out and allows multiple conversations to happen with the radios. Again, we went through an extensive process with purchasing to put out an accurate bid. And the bid we received is $58,836. We anticipated about $60,000, so it came back in an accurate cost. It's with a local company, D&D, so maintenance, any repairs to these, any warranty repairs can be done locally without having to ship them out to some other state in the country, and it keeps that money local.
I didn't catch, are these replacement or additions?
These are additions. Certainly over time, a radio like this, you're going to have some maintenance issues, or I don't think we've damaged beyond repair any of them. Most of this is expansion, but there's always a couple that get some heavy use. These, when you ask about life cycle, 5 is a very good time frame for these, and the fact that we have the majority
5
of our
years.
5 years, yeah, the majority of these are still in use, and the new ones will augment it. Again, we try to take very good care of those.
Question.
Carl?
I don't think I saw that this was a sole search.
No, this was, we put it out, because it's Motorola, it'll still be a Motorola radio that matches, but there are multiple outlets for Motorola radios across the country.
Okay.
So they were able to put out, I think the bid process would have put it out to over a couple hundred different potential bidders.
Great.
Because these are such a commodity, there's very narrow price range difference from piece to piece. And a big part of it is being able to locally service. And so that kind of gives a local maybe a little more heads up. They're not paying for shipping back and forth.
Good.
Any other questions of Tom? Thank you, Tom. Is there public comment on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve WH 1812?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Claire,
Yes.
Beitler,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
1812 is approved. Agenda item number 9 is setting the next meeting, which will be on Thursday, August 23rd, 2:30 PM, in this same chamber, unless there's some objection. Is that agreeable to you, gentlemen? All right. Do we need a motion on that? We don't need a motion on that, do we? No. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded? We are adjourned.